Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger. With me, as always, is Trevor Scott.
Hello. Welcome to the Bitstorm.
Episode, I've forgotten, 146 or something?
Yeah, it's 146.
Yeah. So, why don't you tell the lovely people at home what we're going to do this week, Trevor?
Gonna sit here and shoot the shit.
This is a podcast about two guys who just chat about movies and things, and we think we've got a unique view on the world as two privileged white guys. No, that's not what this is about at all.
We each have a random word generator in front of us. On the count of 3, 2, 1, we're going to click refresh, get those words, throw them at each other, come up with a game idea. Then when it doesn't work, we throw it away and click again.
Yeah, or even if it does work, because you can only go so far. All right, let's do it.
3, 2, 1, click.
Authorization.
Urgency.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. I'm getting the idea of like something around trying to get into a door. Like you need the right sort of, like authorization, obviously, whether it's a key card or a retinal scan or a voice scan, or like maybe it's like an adventure game that's entirely around getting through this one door and beating all of the different authorization methods.
It's like I've been playing a few mobile games recently, and some of them are just like very, very simple puzzle that they keep on adding new levels to. And the idea of having like a fingerprint scanner sort of thing, and then, eye scanner, and just having to do like mini games to sort of try and line things up really quickly.
That could be cool. I like the idea of it being a puzzle game. Yeah. And every level you have to get a certain number of authorization elements into their correct place. So you've got like, a key card, or even just an actual key into a lock, or, the eyeball to the retinal scan and the mouth to the, like, I'm kind of almost picturing you moving these elements around on a board or something in some way. Or, have you seen that game? Is it Steven's Sausage Roll?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where it's just like you can only move things in certain ways, right? And certain things block them. Or like, Snakebird or something. Is that, yeah, that's the one I think.
Yeah.
Where it's just, it's, okay, you're presented with a level. You've got to get a key card to the key card reader, an eyeball to the, to the eyeball thing, to the retinal scanner.
And a fingerprint to the fingerprint scanner.
And a fingerprint to the finger to the fingerprint scanner. And so the finger's long, right? So it can only roll in certain ways. Perhaps the eyeball, you can't put it on a slope because it'll roll down the slope, or you have to use the slope to do certain things, right? The key card, it can maybe, get through smaller gaps, but I don't know, it has other, yeah. So I'm just sort of thinking you could do something interesting, and it's just like you've got a certain amount of moves or something, or it's doing in the least amount of moves. Yeah,
I kind of like the idea that it's disembodied parts that you need to get to the place. Yeah, I do quite like that idea.
And then you could kind of have this meta narrative of, it's almost like Get Smart, where he's going through all the doors.
Oh yeah, I've that was already in my head, and what's been going through my head the entire time. Yeah. And I'm thinking that every time that you get to the end of like a series of levels, then it shows like a phone box, and it goes down.
Yeah, sure.
And then it opens up, and there's just another series of doors, and it's
there's more doors.
Geez, they've really notched up.
We could do it as a licensed Get Smart thing, little cartoony 99 and Max.
Yeah, so you're going down to control. You're not Maxwell Smart. You're
Agent 82.
Yeah, or you're 199.
Right, you're 100. Yeah, you're Agent 69. Nice.
Agent 420.
Agent 69 420 XXX. We should never have let the agents start picking their own code names.
Yes, I do like the idea of this being almost like a very simple phone game that just is a puzzle game. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea that, because when I thought of the eyeball on the slope, like having it kind of be this 3D-ish, like it's got vertical levels as well in some way, so...
Yep, so you got to use a little lift to get the eyeball up and then move it across and get that in line with this, but if you move the finger in the wrong way, then it knocks down a pillar that can actually knock down the arm.
That's it. Maybe you can interact with the environment in some way, like you've got a certain number of finger jabs. So not only does the finger have to get to the fingerprint scanner, but it can, like, do a jab, and so it has to be pointing in the exact right direction to, like, push a block or something like that to then, like, let the eyeball through or block off a slope so that the eyeball doesn't, go all the way back down the bottom or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
That's really cool.
All right, 3, 2, 1, click. Ooh. This could go a few different ways. Fringe.
Dogma.
Okay. So that could go a few different ways too. These are both interesting words that we could play with, but also interesting franchises.
Yes, exactly.
TV series and movies.
I'm kind of thinking that it's a sort of like a future world of Dogma that kind of crosses over with the Fringe universe. In the fact that I'm pretty sure Loki survived Dogma.
Right. Yeah, to be clear, we're talking about Kevin Smith's 1999
movie Dogma.
The reason I know that is because it's one of the first movies I downloaded and it would have had the release year on it.
Reason why I know that is because recently I've been reading all these articles about how the Weinsteins bloody own Dogma, God. And that's why it's not available for streaming anywhere. Yay.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys.
Okay, so we're actually crossing over those universes. All right.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Right, Loki was Matt Damon's character,
yes.
Right? And he survived because God killed... Bartleby, yeah. Yeah, okay. And so he just been, like... And actually, this is probably going to be addressed in the new reboot film, what Loki's been up to.
From what I understand, Matt Damon does play Loki in Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, but we obviously haven't seen that. We're not taking into that. We're making up new canon. So Loki's been what for some time?
I think you know those watchers that were all the way through the Fringe series. Like he worked out that he could actually become like a watcher sort of thing, just watching all the different
universes or whatever.
Sort of, going through the universes, watching all the weird scientific things happening, and actually causing a couple of them himself.
All right. This is feeling a little bit all over the place with those different things. So let's see if we can kind of bring it down to some sort of central story. So maybe we focus it mostly on the Fringe universe, and the whole Loki coming into it is kind of a late act twist or something.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a specific watcher who keeps turning up. And I don't know if we use the actual characters from Fringe or if we set it in just in that sort of world where there's obviously parallel.
It could almost be like a prequel to it. Sort of like,
is it young Dr. whatever?
Dr. John Noble or whatever.
Dr. Fringe. Yeah. Dr. John Fringe. Yeah, John Noble. Or like when Peter is Peter in that? Yeah. When Peter's a kid or something. So the issue here is it's been way too long since I watched
it's Walter Bishop. Walter Bishop.
Oh, John Noble's the actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
young Walter Bishop.
Right. Or we could fourth wall it and it's young John Noble. His clone visits him. His alternate.
I kind of like the idea that maybe Walter Bishop is sort of like your helper in this. Like it's before he sort of went a bit nuts. He's sort of like helping you out, and you're sort of working as a policeman or someone for the FBI.
Well, no, here's what I'm thinking, because he was a university, didn't he teach at university or something?
Something like that.
Or is that later on? Anyway, mate. Well, let's because I'm thinking maybe you're one of his students.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's there as sort of a mentor figure in a way, but you've got your own story as one of these students. And then, we set off some sort of dimension hopping, this is the problem. I don't remember enough of the Fringe lore to dive into it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for quite a while. I'm thinking more on the crazy sort of side of things, that maybe there's some experiments that he did and he's sending you out to try and, round them up before they cause too many issues.
Or perhaps to make this simpler and just hear me out. It's Loki and he's just trying out a new hairstyle. It's actually another mobile game, and it's just like cut the trickster god's hair or whatever. He's just an angel in that, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
3 to 1 click.
It's like he's got magical hair that grows back because he's an angel,
and he has no dick. 3 to 1 click.
Yeah.
Leader
15. A couple of things come to mind. High school.
Mm-hmm.
Because 15 just made me think of, obviously, 15 years old.
Yep.
And a leader being kind of like, the influencer in some sort of, clique or just school, whatever, president or something.
Mm-hmm.
All the other was, it's about 15 people.
Yeah, I was sort of going in the 15 people.
Okay.
You're the leader of 15 people.
Okay. Or it's about, like, finding the leader or, something to do with the leader of 15 people. All right.
Okay.
Where are these
cool.
15 people?
Ooh.
Yep.
Okay. Lord of the Flies. I'm sort of seeing this idea of the Lord of the Flies and finding a leader within these 15 people, so that there's sort of a majority sort of thing that can actually happen.
All right. Well, okay. Because you said Lord of the Flies
aspect.
You said Lord of the Flies, and that obviously it put me in a battle royale mode, which obviously, like, Lord of the Flies has some sort of, there's sort of a relation there, but I like the idea of it being a more social thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just, when you see people, you kill them. It's like, no, you are trying to, it's like
you're trying to gather favor.
Yeah, it's like short-ish rounds, but it's like, who is the leadership kind of going to gather around? Like, when you start, all of these 15 people want to be the leader. And so it's about something that you do in the game where basically the choice that everybody has to make is like, am I going to keep like continuing to try to be the leader myself, or am I going to cut my losses and take a gamble on throwing my lot in with a different leader who is doing well? And it's sort of who can, but not everyone, I don't know, maybe not everyone can go with one leader or something. It's about, you kind of get points or something, or you...
Where I'm sort of seeing this is almost like a Rockstar bully-esque sort of story, that there's sort of like stuff that's going on, it's somewhat an open environment on this island. There's like some secret things happening on the island, kind of a la You're Lost sort of thing.
Oh, see, I was very much thinking of this more as a multiplayer round-based thing.
Oh, where I was thinking more narrative, because I like the idea of having to carry favor by doing like side quests and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I do like that. And maybe we can come back to that if mine doesn't work.
Yes.
But it's more just like,
we'll just discuss. We'll discuss both.
We can discuss both. Yeah.
And then we'll take a vote as to which one's better.
Yeah, as to who's the leader and who carried the most favor. So yeah, because I'm kind of thinking, I like that mechanic of, okay, when everyone drops in, they're all equal. They're on this island or in this space. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be in an island to have that Lord of the Flies kind of thing. Maybe it's on like a spaceship that's just crashed, or or is drifting through space or something. I don't know, like somewhere that they're isolated. But when you start,
it's an island, but it's smaller than like the Fortnite or the PUBG sort of island.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, if it's only 15 people, it definitely needs to be.
Well, it was 15 maybe each team.
Well, this is what I'm saying though. When you start, there's no teams, right?
Oh yeah.
When you drop,
so if there's 15 people, then yeah.
I think there's 15 people because actually I'm thinking that the unevenness might need to come into. Yeah. I haven't quite worked out in my head how.
I do kind of like that with the idea that basically you've just got to get 7 people over onto your side. You've got to carry favor.
Well, that's it, because then you can have a majority. Yeah, then you can have a majority.
Well, 8
so
people,
when you drop, like everyone's equal. No, 7 plus yourself.
Yeah, you need to,
because 7 plus 8 and then 7 on the other side. Yeah, it's you drop. Everyone's on equal footing, and basically everyone's like, okay, I want to be the leader, or I could potentially be the leader, but maybe you get like And I guess we need to figure out what the actual mechanic is. Is it like building something? Is it gathering something? Where it's like, okay, I could go out on my own and try to gather followers, or I could just, maybe you get bonuses for allying early on to sort of build up your cachet. But of course, people can flip at certain points. Maybe not any point, but like maybe there are certain ways that people can flip. And so, it's kind of about reaching the end, and there's some sort of strategy for gathering those followers first. Yeah, it's tricky.
What sort of multiplayer things are you thinking?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like from a instinctual mechanical point of view, I'm like, okay, there's something here, and I think if you're the leader, then if you become the leader yourself, you get more points. If you're on the winning team, you get some points. And then obviously if you're on the losing team, you don't. And I'm just trying to think, is it just the first person to get 7? And then it's kind of the tension between, well, people aren't just going to join one person right away because they want the points themselves. Like, you kind of need to balance that well enough so it's not just that a bunch of people immediately see 3 people joined up and then it's like, okay, just get in with that group as fast as possible.
If you're one of these sort of people who really has that sort of out there personality that you're going to want to try and lead no matter what. I could just imagine you enter into a game and you got like 12 of those people. I was like, oh, shit.
I guess it comes down to, is this like a voice chat thing? Like, are you trying to convince people, or is it more around like you have to gather and build something in the world to like present to your leader, I don't know, or to like convince a leader to take you on? And there are a few different kind of ways. I feel like it's the sort of the idea that we need some iteration and some figuring out. So maybe we don't, if we don't have ideas, we don't continue down that path. But yeah, there's some interesting mechanical like tension there between those players that I like. But anyway, so narratively.
So I'm thinking like not necessarily a first person, but more of a third person adventure game, almost like Mass Effect and Bully.
Okay. And so you're playing like teens?
Yeah, so I think kind of following along with the Lord of the Flies sort of idea. Kind of like doing a reboot of it, kind of like, how Enslaved Odyssey to the West redid like the...
I knew you were going to say that. I had that came into my head. Yeah, it's like a retelling of that story, yeah.
With a little bit more sci-fi sort of stuff going on in the background.
Yeah. So you don't have Piggy in the conch shell, but you have some sort of symbolic device or whatever or item, and it's that general idea of people.
Yeah, you do have like a savage group that's sort of breaking apart and sort of getting very violent and that sort of stuff. Whereas you've got the more lenient group, but there's also some sci-fi stuff going on the island, a la your Lost sort of thing.
I like that idea of bringing some sci-fi-ish elements. Like maybe it's actually even set. Like again, maybe it's because I don't remember how in Lord of the Flies they got to the island.
I think like they were out on like a trip with their teacher or something like that, because they did really well in this.
No, it's a crash. It's a plane crash.
It is a plane crash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in the midst of a wartime evacuation, a British airplane crashes on or near an isolated island in a remote region of the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's only those boys that survive. Yeah, so I feel like something like that, but maybe it's like, like it's like a spaceship or something. Like you actually do it in the far future. So that you've got some...
They're almost evacuating Earth sort of thing, and so it's almost having that extra... sort of thing that there's no one left on the planet. This is one of the last spaceships to sort of, or ships to sort of
or
escape
just they
Earth.
don't know. Like they could be the only ones left. And so they're just like, oh, we need to like start a new civilization and all the stuff of kids or people, any people trapped in isolation like that, and the dynamics that come up and the violence and savagery that could come into play. Yeah,
but just having like side missions for some of the boys to try and get them to come over to your side, but then you get like a rival on the other side who's sort of becoming more violent or basically doing the opposite of what you're doing. So if you go extremely violent, then they're sort of doing.
Oh, I see.
The
It kind of
opposite.
dynamically changes.
Yeah.
Based on your own decisions. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like you've
Kind
got
of
your
like
you've got your opposite.
If you look at Infamous, how you could go through the light side or the dark side sort of thing, and your character sort of changed depending on, and people reacted to you in that way. I like the idea of you get to choose which way you sort of go, whether you go down the sort of violent
Order or chaos, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like anarchy or order.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting for sure. One question. So it was all boys in the original book.
Oh, hell no. There's not going to be all boys in this one.
Well, it's interesting though, because, and I haven't read any analyses myself, but I'm sure there is something to be said about the fact that it was all boys, and whether things would be different with some girls in the mix or not. Not just around sexuality, but just around attitudes and, you know, and I mean, that comes from how men, boys and girls are socialized differently anyway, but, that's certainly something we could explore as well. I don't know if we want to go too far down the sexuality route, and not to say that there's no sexuality between 14-year-old boys, either, but I guess it just depends it depends on what sort of themes you're trying to explore as this all plays out. So are you thinking that it can go as dynamically as you've got these 15 kids, and it could be interesting that it's almost procedural in a sense. Like, you don't want to make it too procedural if you're trying to go narrative, but procedural as to which kid becomes your nemesis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like becomes your opposite. And then
kind of like the nemesis system that we were talking about last week.
And that's why,
2 weeks ago.
I said nemesis, because that was actually in my head around, it's more dynamic of, depending on how you play and how you interact with specific kids, they might come onto your side. And look, behind the scenes, the game probably just switches out the personalities as necessary in a way, or triggers different story paths or something, depending on like what combination of kids you end up with, which could get complex. But again, you'd be able to simplify it down enough, I think. But that could be interesting then. Like every time you play, the overall broad strokes are the same. Where you
got
have
some survival sort of things that you gotta think about food for the group if you're trying to be the leader, and
I think there are actual story missions, like you said. You know, it's a bit more RPG-ish.
I do like the idea that you don't necessarily have to become the leader. The idea that if you literally start taking missions, that you're just helping everyone else. You know, there's going to be a sort of leader that comes forward.
That would make it trickier to do the story style missions unless you had just that as a separate path. But I do like the idea of having that as an opportunity.
Yeah,
sort of being able to sit on the fence a bit as well and not necessarily choose sides. Yeah, no, there's a lot of meat on those bones around what you can do with 15 kids isolated on a whatever planet, island on a planet, and then you could do some interesting stuff with the sci-fi things as well, whether there are literal other beings on there as well that they come across, and then how they react to those. Like, does that unify the humans, or does that split them up even further because they can't decide how to approach, whether it's violently or not? Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm just reading here that there was actually a 2018 American thriller film, an all-female take on the 1954 novel Lord of the Flies. Lady World follows 8 teenage girls trapped in a house together after an earthquake.
Interesting.
But it's only got 57% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So, they didn't do a very good job? Well, who knows? They might have. You can't trust those critics all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, and hey, it's got Maya Hawke in there from Stranger Things, who it was obvious after I looked it up. But when I realised that was Uma Thurman's daughter, I was like, oh, of course it fucking is. Because they look so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1, click.
I was going to sing Pour Some Sugar on Me. But it's just pour.
Oh, pour. Transfer. Pour transfer. So it's some sort of fluid or sand-based game.
Yeah, I'm definitely liking the idea of, again, like a small sort of mini game sort of thing in which you're having to almost combine like different chemicals to you know, I don't know, maybe solve small puzzles. Basically, you're trying to dissolve, say, like green, blue, and red. So you need to mix the chemicals in a way to first dissolve all the green and then work out how to now dissolve the blue to dissolve the red to...
Right, okay, like certain interactions where you're basically trying to figure out these different chemical reactions.
Yep.
Based on color or texture or different things.
Yep.
Okay. How are you sort of picturing it? Is this like little granules, or is it kind of more a cohesive body of liquid in some sense? Are they swirling? Are they mixing?
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing it almost like on the board. You've got like lots and lots of different colored granules that you're trying to basically dissolve. So you got to work out like the best way of actually dissolving them in the smallest amount of move, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think so. So it's kind of like if you mix the red and like the red dissolves the blue, but then how are you going to dissolve the red? Like, would it be that some of them mix to make a new chemical then, which you might then need to dissolve something else?
Yeah, you could do it that way.
Because I'm just trying to think of how that cycle would work, if you know what I mean. Like, so you've got a board, and then maybe you've got like a certain set of chemicals in vials or something, and you have to choose kind of what order to put them and where.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I'm just wondering if, you know, you can sort of use the primary colors or something like that to try and work out, okay, so if we did red and blue, if they were on opposite areas, and then you had purple in the middle, then you can just sort of like do the red and blue, then mix the red and blue together to make the purple, to dissolve the purple in the middle. So that's a nice, easy one.
Oh, you're saying you've got one... Okay. You're saying that you've got like the liquid or whatever that you're trying to... Or the powder that you're trying to dissolve, and then you're pouring the liquids onto it to actually dissolve it, or something like that, and then you have to use the right colours. Okay.
I'm thinking, for simplicity's sake, you know, not having to remember which colour dissolves which, you know, the same colour dissolves the same colour sort of thing. Make it easy.
Yeah. I'm just trying to sort of sort through the solution space in my head of what your possibilities are then and how that would play out. Because it's an interesting idea. And you could do some cool, trippy, like, color mixing stuff.
Yeah, and looking at the sort of games that I've been, that myself and my whole family have sort of been playing online at the moment, it's very, very simple, like barely even a puzzle sort of game. It's just more...
Okay. What if it's something like, instead of pouring liquid over to dissolve sand or whatever, you've got liquid and it's kind of mixed. These things, they don't mix completely, but they kind of can swirl through each other and they'll mix a bit maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you've got a sponge. And this is kind of where transfer comes in. So you could suck up, like, so if you put the sponge into the red will kind of all pour towards it and get sucked up into it, and it'll leave gaps. Like maybe it's not like real liquid, like maybe it's a viscous liquid, right? So it doesn't just, the other liquids don't just like splash in to fill that space, like gaps are left.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe they slowly fill it in or something. But you could, if you suck up the red and then suck up the blue, then your sponge becomes purple, right? And then that's how then you need to do something with that purple to, I don't know, you're trying to, I guess it then depends on what are you trying to do with that sponge, but
yeah,
maybe you're trying to paint something. Maybe you're trying to like fill colours in then on something else. And so you've got a limited amount of the liquid, and you have to put the sponge in the right place to like mix it the right way before you wring it out or paint it on something.
Very confusing.
So you click.
Yes.
We're getting a few of those tonight. Where it's the interesting mechanics are there.
Our brain isn't in it.
But well, no, it's not even that. It's just for a podcast, like without actually starting to try these things out and see like how the interplay between different elements.
So we're going to spend the next hour in Unity. You can just listen as we sort of click.
Yeah, we're just going to click away. We're going to prototype this stuff.
Guess what? It didn't work. Okay, 3 to 1 click. Oh, that's the end of the podcast. It's an hour
I guess
of
this
clicking.
I guess this is why we often tend towards narrative stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Racetrack.
Attachment.
Oh. A couple of things coming to mind, so you can pick what you want from it.
Okay.
Obviously, attachments onto cars is one thing, or onto vehicles of some sort. Maybe like, and I think we did something similar to this, but maybe like picking up different pieces as you go to kind of construct yourself in different ways. Or what it also made me think of is like a Scalelectric racetrack.
Simulation sort of game.
Well, it was more the connecting on new pieces of track.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of mechanic around actually extending the racetrack, and whether you're actually driving on it or not, I don't know. But
So, one of my favorite games when I was a kid was a game called Stunts. Do you remember this?
oh yeah, of course.
So, I'm seeing this as literally a 2019 remake of Stunts, in which effectively it's you get to add all your bits and pieces together.
Yeah.
Making these awesome jumps and all this sort of stuff with different easy to connect pieces. You can sort of modify the terrain in very basic ways, but effectively you're sort of making tracks, and then sort of you can then take them to like multiplayer races and you know, bring your invite your friends in and you know, make
so that's
your own
definitely
rules.
Cool. I feel like but it's been done though. Like there are definitely like games where you can just build tracks like that, right?
Really?
I feel like I've seen that. But what they don't have is the totally janky physics of Stunts. Where if you land, you might suddenly find yourself 3 kilometers in the air.
See, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like BeamMG.drive. And I'm like, hang on, no, it's not. Because BeamMG.drive, like, the way that things worked is, yeah, here is your sort of area, and that's it. Like, you play in the playground that we've created for you, and if you want to make your own, then we don't provide anything for you to do that with.
Yeah, that's true. It would be cool to have the soft body physics of BeamNG.drive, but in a nicely packaged, build up your track. And
if I remember rightly, the way that you could actually build up your track was very, very simple in the fact that it was sort of like modular pieces grid-based, fit together. You know, you could never get around the loop-to-loop, no matter how hard you bloody tried, mainly because the frame rate was like 8 frames per second. So I think in today's sort of day, we're due for a new version of Stunts that still has 8 frames per second, but it's got ray tracing. So it looks amazing, but it's only
still 8 frames per second. Unless you've got like the top NVIDIA or whatever. Okay, can we maybe put some more rather than just say, let's give you a sandbox, but it's modern. Can we put some structure around this where maybe it's around you've got a series of missions, but it's not about necessarily completing the stunts, although I guess you probably have to make it completable. I'm kind of almost thinking in a Mario Maker-esque way. You have guidelines, or you have like objectives where you have to make a track that has at least, 2 loop-the-loops and, no more than this length of track or something. Kind of like it's got a puzzle mode, almost like your bridge builder sort of. Yeah, kind of a bit like a bridge builder where you've got to meet those objectives, and then maybe even maybe even the AI races around to sort of test it and make sure it's
completable.
It's a legitimate track, yeah. Yeah, and then you can unlock new and different
bits and pieces.
Crazy, ridiculous stunt pieces. Set buses on fire. Make it a bit more Evel Knievel-esque stunts where you are creating this fucking kick-ass stunt track, but you've got limited pieces to do it, and you have to sort of figure out the best track to make. Like,
you've got a whole heap of road, a ramp, and 13 buses. And what you do with that is your own idea.
Yeah, well, that's level 1.
One of the things that I was sort of thinking about when you started saying objectives, I immediately went to I think it was like Jetpack Joyride or something like that. It was like one of those sort of games that have like the 3 objectives at once that you can sort of choose your objective that you're sort of going for this time. As well as having some pre-designed things we as the developers come up with that has like a single player thing that you go through. Well,
in that endless runner style, an endless driver that could be interesting.
Cool. Endless stunt driver.
He's just endless stunt driver. He's just procedurally generating this track that just goes on forever, where you've just got different loops and jumps and spins and
maybe some different pathways that you can make. Maybe some different pathways that you can head down and your Trials Fusion or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then you do have those objectives where it's like, do a triple rotation or whatever, offer, whatever you call those wheel ramp things that flip you up into the air. And
in this one, we want corkscrew, loop-de-loop, loop-de-loop, corkscrew.
Yeah, there you go. There's an element of Tony Hawk in there too. Where you can manual in your car to like link the tricks together.
You need to get up on the edge and keep it going for X number of seconds before going up the half pipe.
Well, having said that, and just to completely go down a tangent, an endless Tony Hawk's style skate game could be really cool.
It could be. Where
you're just trying to link tricks together. It's basically like that downhill level, but it's endless.
Downhill jam.
Well, did they do a whole game of that, or was it just one level?
There was a game called Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam.
Okay. Was that basically what I just described, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. Let's have a look. Emphasizes gaining speed and racing opponents.
Yeah, see, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking more of it's still really around the tricks, but it's just more like that level. You're kind of mostly heading down in one direction, but you're trying to link the tricks together and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Forever. Tony Hawk's Endless Nightmare.
Okay, 3 to 1 click. Bunch.
Grueling.
I mean, what's come to my head straight away, and we usually like to sort of do this, is bunch of balloons. And I'm thinking they're all red balloons.
Are there 99?
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of a horror game based around It.
Oh, okay.
No, I almost can't believe that they haven't actually done like an It adventure game sort of thing yet.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think of how you would do it.
I'm kind of thinking like back in the day, whenever they did one of these movie tie-in things, sort of like I'm thinking back to like
SNES.
Even earlier, like I think there was a 1990 game of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 or something like that. That was like
right
a very loose tie-in, in that you could actually play any one of the kids from the Dream Warriors, and sort of just the other ones sort of got captured.
Okay, I do like the idea of a very loose tie-in that's like a 90s era side scroller for It.
Yeah.
And like your lives are red balloons, and you just like trying to avoid, if you go past a drain, then a clawed hand in clown gear comes out and tries to grab you, but it's mostly just platforming.
Yeah, platforming, and then there's like random zombies all the way through the game, and all these things that you just don't expect. And at the end of each level, there's like something to do with Pennywise that comes out, and I'm
there's like a boss fight, right?
Yeah, but the problem is kind of like what happened in the second half of the TV series of It.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like your Tim Curry as Pennywise. It was just like the different versions of the nightmares that Pennywise actually played.
Right.
So like a werewolf or like, just
their own personal like fears.
Yeah. Their own personal fears. Yeah. But it's not till the very end of the game that Pennywise actually appears.
Right.
As like an antagonist that you can beat.
Well, I guess, what are we adapting? Are we adapting the book? Are we adapting the 90s TV series?
we're loosely adapting all of it, but because it's sort of around the era, you're looking at the miniseries. So you got your Tim Curry-esque.
You Seth Green.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. I don't think I even ever saw it.
I'm trying to remember who it was that was playing Bill. It was, what's his name? Young guy who I'm pretty sure was in Neverending Story 2.
Oh, it's Jonathan Brandis.
Yep.
He was in Neverending Story 2. That debacle.
I loved that movie as a kid, and then I saw it again many years later, and I was like, yeah, it wasn't good. And less said about 3, the better.
Oh god, no. Based on the characters of. Okay, so 90s side scroller. Is there anything more we've got there? Do you just fight like the big spider beast? Is that like the final boss when it just
so it's not even like you don't even fight the clown at all throughout the whole thing?
No, it's the earlier bosses, but like in the book, that's the final. Like it's when it goes into its gross whatever
the Deadlights
base form or whatever.
But you know what has to happen in this? Like, it has to go deep into the lore with, like, the turtle and all that sort of stuff. All the stuff that the movie and the miniseries just missed out altogether.
Oh, all the, like, Dark Tower stuff?
Well, you've heard about the background behind it, that, like, it's from another universe and all this sort of stuff. And there's, like, some mystical turtle that it's afraid of and
oh.
all this sort of stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if that retroactively ties into all the Dark Tower stuff.
Probably does. I mean, Stephen King's very much like that he ties it all together through the Dark Tower stuff. And then he allows a movie like the Dark Tower to come out and has got nothing to do with the rest of the fucking series. It's like a fucking sequel to it.
He's allowed a lot of shitty movies to be made, and he probably doesn't have that much control over them after signing over the rights, but...
Yeah, that's just stupid.
Anyway, we said at the beginning of this episode that it's not two white guys talking about movies, so let's move on.
Well, it is.
3, 2, 1, click.
Elephant.
Hell.
Okay, so I'm picturing a game kind of like a game that we've talked about before, which was Pain for the PS3.
Yeah.
Except instead of a slingshot.
Why did that relatively mediocre game have such an impact on us? I think it's because we just played it at my place that time and, like, spent ages trying to get nut shots.
Yep. So I'm liking the idea that instead of a slingshot, it's just an elephant that's hurling, not necessarily people, but it's just hurling stuff across into like, the savannah or something like that.
Okay. Elephants hurling people, yes. My idea was a bit more... Do you remember Caveman Uglympics?
Yes. Oh, God.
So the picture what I thought of when I heard elephant and hurl was kind of like the caber toss that the Highland Scots do.
Yeah.
But instead of a big log, it's an elephant. And maybe a baby elephant, which, isn't very ethical, but it's a tradition, They have the annual...
See, I thought you were going to actually say, instead of the Caveman Olympics, it was going to be like the Elephant Olympics, and you play elephants who are like doing caber tosses and high jumps and all this sort of stuff.
Could also do that, yes. Controlling just a trunk, like a wobbly, jiggly trunk with your controllers or something could be interesting.
Yep.
And having to do Olympic-style games.
I'm picturing that there's like an equestrian style event in which you as an elephant ride a human.
Or just a larger creature, a dinosaur.
I'm just picturing like how crazy that would actually look.
And then you could have, that could be alright, because you'd have to like balance. It'd mostly be about balancing and like any good dressage, it's the training of your human and how well they lift their knees
and you squashed him.
Well, you got to build these humans for leg strength, their core as they hold up. Get
them to do like
elephant.
3,000 sit-ups just so that they can hold you up.
Yeah. Well, you got training mini games where you're choosing which exercises your humans are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of elephants training humans.
Okay, that's enough of that one. 3, 2, 1, quick.
All right. bartender.
Great.
Ooh, bartender to the dead is cool. Maybe like some bar that is like the halfway point between like the afterlife, right? Like that's where you end up. You die and you just find yourself outside or like just inside the door of this seedy bar.
It's kind of like your bar's actually called Purgatory.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm picturing that your job as a bartender is to sort of listen to the stories and help the people move on while giving them drinks as well as trying to like turf out, the rowdy. I'm thinking demons or something along those lines.
Well, I like the idea that you are making the choice of whether they go to heaven or hell.
Yeah,
this is
kind of like a Papers, Please
ground. Yeah. It does have elements of that, but I think you're mixing drinks. There's almost a bit of Red Strings Club.
Still haven't played
did you
that.
Ever play that?
I still haven't played it. Need to.
But just in that, like the different drinks you make, maybe give different conversation options or something.
I'm really loving this idea. Like this has got some good stuff in it.
Do they know? Do the people know that they've died, or
I kind of think that when they first come in, they don't. And so
I feel like they kind of don't remember, but they found themselves in this bar, and so they're just like, oh, I guess I came in here for a drink.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, oh, tell me your problems, and you're talking to them, you're making some decisions as well as trying to let them know in the kindest way possible, like that they're actually dead.
Well, do you have to let them know, or is it just? I kind of like the idea that when you make your decision, you serve them a certain type of drink, and that either like sends them to hell or sends them to heaven.
Yeah,
depending on the drink you mix for them, and they have other drinks in between.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a final cocktail that, and when you send,
it's like okay, one more on the house.
Yeah, and then you give them something to settle their tab, and basically that's when they either get lifted off into heaven via a light, or they get dropped down a chute into hell.
Yeah,
like I'm actually seeing
the demonic screams and the red light come up.
Yeah, red light come up and they just sort of disappear, and it's like you hear it close as the next person walks in.
So I am picturing this as a bit of a Papers, Please in that it's the same kind of people every time, basically. Like it's fairly strictly narrative, but branching based on the choices you make. And, if you send one particular person to hell, maybe that has ramifications down the line.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea of like when this guy works out that he's actually died and he's like, oh, my wife died in the same car crash that I did, but I don't think she's led as good a life as I have. Can you make sure that she gets into heaven with me?
Right. In a very obvious homage to Papers, Please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if in certain situations you maybe actually do have multiple customers and you're having to like switch back and forth between them.
Between the drinks and that sort of stuff. And
and so there's just a bit of a challenge of like, oh, where was I in this person's story? Or like if you ignore them for too long, do they leave? And
they could leave and then they're stuck in Purgatory. Yep. Yeah. I really like that. And, it's sort of like, oh, here's the busy season because, a plane crashed. And it's sort of like you're now in the middle of peak hour sort of thing.
Right. Yes. And then it becomes Tapper. It's just like hell, heaven, hell, heaven, heaven, hell. You just ask them one word, like yes or no questions, because that's all you got time for.
But I like the idea that you sort of get scored on how well you actually do.
I think they each have a destiny of which one they are supposed to go to, and you get. Again, kind of like the Papers, Please, you get the little printout at the end. You get some sort of report where it's like, this person, you didn't find the right conversation path to find the dark secrets that this person was actually a cannibal.
You didn't apply the right alcohol to get to the dark secrets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. I like that idea. And again, very Red Strings Club, but like, you can give them different drinks and kind of have to. Different drinks will have different effects, whether it's like creating melancholy because you sense that they want to confess something, or creating excitement because you think that they'll talk. This particular person will talk when they kind of get, they'll just get loose lips when they happy drunk sort of thing. Different ways to put their state of mind so that you get different conversation options.
Yeah. I kind of like that you also get sort of like the angels and demons coming in every now and again, and they're trying to poach people. And so you got to sort of deal with them quickly.
They're trying to change, yeah. Oh, well, and also they just come in for drinks.
Yeah.
Like, you're a bar still. They just come in for regular drinks. Maybe you can't always tell. Maybe it's not obvious that they're an angel or a demon, or as the game goes across, after you come across your first demon, you realize, oh yeah, for a second there I saw a forked tail or whatever.
Yeah. And for a second I saw a halo in the reflection in the mirror or something like that.
Yeah, and so you just have to look out for certain signs, and it's like, oh, I don't have to spend too much time on this person. They're literally just here to drink.
Yeah. Oh, there's so far that you could actually go with this. It opens for a world of possibilities, and I love this whole, purgatory idea of almost being the gatekeeper, or you could almost lead into the different religious aspects of, it's not quite right.
Well, it's interesting because, we talked about heaven or hell, but literally you are the single arbiter of whether they've had a good or a bad life.
Yeah.
Does that make you God? Does that, do we shift up the expectations around even heaven and hell? And it's maybe you just move on to a different bar. If you go to hell, then it's a bar where there's bad karaoke and and so you just start hinting at that, and weak drinks, watered down drinks, the annoying drunks puking everywhere. And if you've been good,
and outrageous prices.
Exactly. But if you've been good, you're at the bar where there's a corporate event that you've managed to get a free tab on, and it's
all the
fun
people that
karaoke.
you love to talk to, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, and exactly, and you're getting flirted with, and so maybe it's not the float up or the or the drop down. It's just you give them directions to the
you let them
bar.
into the VIP room, or you send them into the dive bar.
yeah. or you call the bouncer to put them in the shitty back room. Yeah.
Oh, and you can literally turf people out onto the street if they're murderers and that sort of stuff. So you've got sort of the mediocre people who don't make it into heaven, but they also don't, make it into hell, but they make it into the dive bar. But the murderers and that sort of stuff, they never get to drink. So they were so bad that they...
Yeah. Yeah, they... I'm not trying to glorify alcohol too much here, but yeah, they kind of...
Yeah, but I'm thinking that this isn't really alcohol. This is more...
No, I know, but there's still there's the trappings of alcohol around it.
Yeah.
I don't want this to, to be shitty for people who don't drink alcohol, but, and to say that that's the lifeblood of the universe. But, in our game it is right now, so.
It's only because you got the word bartender and I got the word grave.
Yeah.
I think you could take that and make a fun game out of it that actually has some good system stuff as well as be narrative.
Absolutely.
Enjoyable.
Yeah. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, should we do one more?
We can do one more.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, click.
Yep.
Caving.
Spoiling
caving. So caving is obviously pretty fun in a gameplay sense. Just exploring new spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe this comes down to you're a hardcore caver.
Yep.
But there's all the there are the areas of this cave system where the shitty teens come and they spoil it. They leave condoms and fucking beer bottles smashed everywhere.
I'm kind of thinking you think you're the first person to ever turn up at this place. And then you turn up and there's such and such was here. It's oh, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know, I don't know what you necessarily play in this game. Is this a game where you have to clean up caves in some way, or like maybe you can put things in place to like scare away. Like you find an area that teens come and it's like, all right, I'm gonna haunt this place for a while. Basically, like you sit out in the dark areas, you know, just outside where they are, and like make horrible sounds, or somehow flush bats out through that particular cave entrance.
Yeah, I'm starting to think whether this is like a procedurally generated sort of cave that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm sort of thinking that you're actually like you work for like the National Park Service or something like that. So you're going through these natural caves, just trying to clean it up and get it prepared for like the next groups to come through.
Well, yeah, I kind of like that idea of, and I'm for some reason I'm picturing it 2D on, because I just like that idea of sort of this warren of caves going down that's like being procedurally generated.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that, you know, the game starts and you've sort of been tasked with mapping out this cave system and preparing it exactly for like tourists.
Yep.
Finding the interesting parts of it, making it safe. You have to like put in railings and stuff without destroying it. There are areas of it that like teens have just come and hung out in or whatever, and so you got to figure out ways to block that off or stop it or whatever. You got to put lights in the right places.
I'm picturing that every now and again you turn up to a certain place and you actually find, okay, this area is deadly because there's actually a dead body here. We need to clean this up. And
yeah, well that's it. And then so it's almost a tycoon game. It's like Cave Tycoon. Because maybe you actually have
elements.
Yeah. Because you actually move your way through it yourself to map it out.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of, I like this idea of being able to set certain areas of it as like, okay, this is tourist friendly area because you've put railings and you've put, you know, supports or whatever. But if you haven't done it well enough, like you literally have people die in these caves. Because you've got a tour guide leading them through, but you didn't put a rail at a place where they could fall.
Yeah. So I'm seeing there's certain parts that are kind of like, almost like Another World or Prince of Persia in the way that it's sort of...
Okay.
Yeah. Done. I like that sort of individual sort of screen-based thing. You can obviously do that procedurally as well. But just
I think you move into different areas of the cave. Like you go through kind of a bit of a tunnel system, and then it's going to open up into some sort of cavern.
Yeah. So rather than it be like a spelunky sort of thing where there's, you know, those sort of procedural elements and you're making your way through the cave, I think it's more of a screen-based procedural game, almost like a procedurally generated Prince of Persia.
Yeah, or at least area generated.
Yeah.
Like, again, it depends if you're doing 2D or 3D, but yeah, because I like that idea of, okay, I've come into this cavern and there's some rocky outcroppings and if I put a rope here, I need to put a rope here if I'm going to be able to get back down.
Or get back up.
It's about kind of making it safe. It's like exploring that whole area so that tourists can be brought through safely, right? Like you have to do all this fucking acrobatics and shit to do it, but once you're up the top, you can go, all right, like this connects into this other section, so I'm just going to put a railing here and nobody can get past it, but it's going to be this grand view of this cavern that I just had to fucking climb.
Yeah.
You know, and place some lights around strategically so they can see the depths of it.
Okay, put a board down here and put a light above it so that you know they can cross this pit without dying. And
yeah, no, well that's exactly it. And I think you get upgrades and stuff later. So early on,
it's candlelight.
You do only have rickety boards and shit. Yeah, you don't have any power down there, so you've got to like have a generator running and like lay cords and stuff, but you got to try to hide them because the people coming to visit don't want to see that.
They're paying good money for this.
They're paying good money. That's it. They're paying good money to have a natural cave experience, except of course none of it is natural because that's not actually what tourists want. Like you're the one having the natural cave experience because you're like going through and exploring these caves.
Mm.
I feel like that could be really, that's a really interesting mix of, yeah, like the platforming procedurally generated sort of stuff. Yep. And then like, yeah, basically kind of a tycoon game. That's really cool.
That is cool.
All right.
I reckon we can call it there.
Finish it up We'll finish it up there for tonight. Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, you can go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm, which has all of our stuff. You can get to any of your favorite players there to listen to us, subscribe to us, follow us on Podchaser, and we've got our private feed coming out soon, so you'll get updates when we bring out new episodes in your feed. Which is pretty neat.
It is.
And we are also part of the 8-Bit Collective, which is a group of podcasts here in Australia, for the most part, making cool stuff and being friends and hanging out and drinking at PAX.
And we are going to be at PAX, so if you do want to hang out with us, just hit us up on Twitter. Hit us, up on Facebook. Just say, we're going to be at PAX. We want to talk to you.
For sure. And 8bit.net for 8-bit. Check them out.
Okay, and we'd also like you to check out the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. They're an awesome, like-minded group of individuals across Australia and New Zealand, and maybe some other places as well. I don't know everyone on there. But anyway, look out for @AGP Network on Twitter or the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network on Facebook. Finally, we'd like to thank Kuradust for the use of the song Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure.
Hells yeah. So, thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm doing a stunt. Yeehaw!
3 stars.